Hi, Stan Watowich from Ridgeline Therapeutics. You can start your video. There you are. Or there's your video anyway. I don't see
There we go.
face.
Delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead, and looking forward to chatting with you after.
All right. Well, again, delighted to be here. It's been a wonderful past 3 days and a great day so far. So thank you very much for the invitation. Ridgeline Therapeutics. We're going to focus today's talk on not all of our drugs, but we're going to focus it on, oops, see if we can keep the click pace here. We're going to focus today's talk on the drug we're using to regenerate aging muscle tissue and the clinical indication that we're launching for next summer will be hip replacement surgery, recovery from that. That's our entry into the aging market because it's a little challenging, as we've discussed, how FDA is viewing this. So we won't talk about the rest of the pipeline. But very simply, the value proposition, novel, transformative oral drugs that really do regenerate aging muscle. To get to the market quickly, we're starting by targeting recovery from hip fracture and hip replacement surgery in the elderly. Why? It's pretty obvious after the last 3 days, and it's obvious to any of us over 35, that we really would like to be the gentleman on, shall we say, my left, the gentleman climbing, not in a walker. As we've discussed, as we know, about 35, that magic age, which I've passed a few years ago, we start losing muscle strength, about 1% a year. And I don't care how much you try to prevent it by exercising, by running, it happens to you. And by about age 60, it increases to about 2%. We know the consequences of losing muscle strength, decreased mobility, quality of life. We see it in ourselves. We see it in our parents. We see it for those of the youngins on this call. You see it in your grandparents. You lose independent living, a whole bunch of other problems. No FDA therapies to reverse and or prevent age-related muscle decline until now. We're not FDA approved, but we're heading in that direction. We have a transformative daily pill to regenerate your muscle. Novel mechanism of action, once a day pill, small molecule, low cost of goods and service. Extensively validated. The last 2 years, we've raised $10 million from the National Institutes of Aging, a number of their institutes, also from the DoD. We were just recognized by the National Academy of Medicine as one of this year's Innovation Awards as part of their Healthy Longevity Global Challenge. All right, so that's a great honor. We're pleased to be validated or recognized by them. NIH, National Institutes of Aging, just awarded us their first ever U44 cooperative grant. They want to work closely with us as we move with them and the FDA through and into clinical trials. So we won't discuss the mechanism of action unless you want to get into that, but the science is out there. We've published on it. We're leaders in this field. Enough to say we're targeting nicotinamide N-methyltransferase. So you'll see us refer to NNMT inhibitors. We're inhibiting this enzyme. Okay, I'm going to run through very quickly some data, but very quickly. But summing up these two studies, let's look at proof of concept in a muscle aging model, comparing it to resistance exercise. Our inhibitor given to sedentary animals increases strength in these animals 40%. Extensive exercise with these animals only allowed their muscle strength to increase 20%. Similarly, adding the inhibitor or our drug increased their aerobic function, their running capacity 3 to 4-fold and maintained it. Whereas just exercise alone, they peaked at about 2-fold and then started to decline as they aged. So we're doing better than exercise alone. And if you combine our drug with exercise, the improvements are additive. Very quickly, animal model, we start with very old animals, 22-month-old C57 blacks, 8-week study period that they're on either a resistance exercise running wheel. So these little animals are going 6 kilometers a day on a weighted wheel. It's probably more than many of us are running a day. It's a little bit more than I'm running a day. We measure their grip strength at 6 weeks, and we then do contractile function at 8 weeks, and we do a whole bunch of tests that we won't get into. But suffice it to say, this is just summary. Exercise alone, 20% improvement relative to sedentary animals. Sedentary animals with our compound, it's almost 40% above sedentary, and this is statistically relevant. You add the two together, and it really is additive. So it's really quite dramatic. Running distance showing the same thing that I mentioned. Another model, this is tissue regeneration, or in this case, muscle regeneration. Aged muscles do not regenerate well. The stem cells do not function very well. All right. In our models and our studies with these aged animals, we see twofold increases in muscle strength, in muscle fiber size, double the number of activated muscle stem cells. The epigenetic age of these animals are decreased 10%. And this is after 1 week of treatment. The epigenetic age is already down 10%. So this is huge. Intermuscular fat, they're much less fat, and the mitochondrial respiration is improved. So the muscle quality and the rebuilding of the muscle is dramatically improved. What's the model? It's an industry standard model. We injure the aged animals. These are, again, 24, in this case, 24-month-old animals, destroy a TA muscle with a barium chloride injection, and then we watch the animals recover, rebuild this muscle, treating versus saline injection. And just some very quick, we're doubling the strength of the muscle, which is the key to us. We don't care to make things bigger. We want to make them better. So the muscle strength increases, but also the muscle cell proliferation increases quite dramatically, the myofiber fusion. So we know why the strength increases. And then the muscle fat decreases in the treated, the epigenetic age, as we mentioned. So we have done these studies over and over again. We're moving into clinical trials now. The space is getting busy for muscle regeneration, but we're really well differentiated as being oral by increasing muscle strength, muscle size, and reducing fat mass. No one else can say they're doing this in these types of animals. Where are we getting into the clinic? Okay, this is hard to get because sarcopenia itself is not really a disease, according to the FDA, as of present. So we're coming in through recovery from hip replacement surgery. That's our launch market. So we're launching next year clinical trials to do post-operative care following hip replacement. There are about 800,000 hip replacements done in the elderly each year and about 300,000 hip fractures. We're mostly focused on hip replacement. I'm not going to go through how we expand out from there, but it's pretty obvious. If we get the data we need there, sarcopenia, frailty is the next, ultimately a prophylactic. We've had great success the last 2 years, raising $10 million, which has allowed us to do a number of pre-IND. We're targeting phase 1 for end of June of next year, and we're in the process of raising a Series A for the clinical trials. We could do it non-dilutive. We've been very successful, but it's just slower, and I'm in a hurry because I'm getting older. I'd like this on the market as soon as possible. So phase 2 will be arthroplasty recovery, similarly with phase 3. Okay, great team, scientists, business experts, regulatory experts. So we're really happy, but we've kept the team very, very, very lean. So we work a lot with CROs. You can't touch this panel of scientific advisors in the geriatric space, in the muscle space, in the orthopedic space. These are, and they're, and Phil Shear obviously is helping us with our diabetes models. We are extensively connected with the NIH Pepper Centers of Excellence across the country and working well with them. So, simple question, how do you wish to age? I think you now have a choice if you help us move forward. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, we all want to be the rock climber. Nobody wants to be the person in the hospital. This is really inspiring, and congratulations on winning the NAM award.
We're very honored.
What did they like the most about what you were doing? I'm curious. This is the National Academy of Medicine for anyone who doesn't know what NAM is.
Yep. So they don't give reviews. They don't kind of say this is what we like or this is what we don't like. But we focused on novel mechanism of action and the data. I mean, the animal data that indicates that the measures that we should be caring about, in this case, muscle strength, that's where we're seeing really dramatic improvements in a number of different models. And I think that's what caught their attention, combined with the fact that we're not doing anything. I don't want to insult anyone. We're not taking young people's blood and injecting it into old people. All right, I know in California people like to do that, and then maybe it has some validity. This is a once daily small molecule pill, so the idea that it would be accepted and easily available to everyone is probably what caught their attention. And that's what excites us. I mean, this isn't just for the wealthy who can afford a young person's blood transfusion or shall we say, a very expensive therapy. So I think our differentiation is what caught their attention, combined with the really translational animal experiments.
Right. Yeah. Low cost is a really big deal. So to get there would be one of the holy grails for sure. Now, you mentioned that your therapy also reduces fat, whereas your competitors don't do that. Why is that?
Well, depending on what we're focused on. So in the muscle tissue itself, we see the muscle. So as you get older, I hate to, and again, I realize it doesn't apply to you. As I get older, all right, my muscles have gotten fatter. They're getting fatter. And when we look at the rebuilding muscle in the muscle regeneration, they haven't collected that fat. We're still trying to understand why, all right? We have a number of ideas, because with a different molecule that targets the adipose tissue, we can dramatically shrink adipose tissue without changing how much the animal eats. And so those two mechanisms of action may be related. But again, this pill is targeting the muscle, and we can tell, the different pills actually have different tissue distributions. So we think that one reason we're just seeing, I think, better muscle function, the muscle seeing better respiration. You're not seeing that accumulation of fat. So like I say, the muscles they're looking surprisingly young, and this is a systemic treatment. So that's kind of cool.
Yes, that's always a good thing. Thomas, I can see you on the screen. Did you want to say something?
Well, Stan, I really like your story, so I'm fascinated. I apologize for coming on to ask more questions. We also have a couple minutes before the next the next presenters coming on. But so you're seeking your A round. You've done terrifically in raising non-dilutive funding so far, but you need to get investor dollars to power your clinical development. You said you want to start clinical trial by end of second quarter, something like that, June. How much are you looking for in your A round, and what's the reception when you're going around talking to folks?
So we've just begun. We've kind of been in a quiet mode right now. We're targeting an $8 million A round, so relatively low cost to take us through it's a 6-month SAD/MAD, very, very standard phase 1 study. It'll last a year by the time all the data is collected, et cetera, as you know, better than I. But we're targeting a $8 million investment for the A round and about a $25 million for the B round, which would then fund the phase 2 trial. But we're really looking at for investors that would stay with the A round, and then if that's successful, invest in the B round. Okay, so that's kind of our.
Let me ask a question that's related to that. Where do you see this going in like 5 to 10 years? Like, do you want to be a standalone company? Do you imagine yourself selling to pharma? Where do you think this is going to go?
Yes.
Both.
So, I mean, again, as anyone who knows me, I'm probably overly blunt. We see it going, or I see it going, whatever path gets this product and the rest of the products to the market the quickest. All right, so we're in deep discussions now with due diligence with some pharma companies. All right, and if they can take this quickly through phase 2, happy to out-license to them. If it's quicker globally to sell the entire company to them, that's fine. Again, the goal is not so much what's in it for me, but what's going to get this drug to the market. Now, obviously, if we sell the company lock, stock, and barrel, I'll start a new company and move forward there. If it makes more sense because of the other products coming along that a pharma wants just one product, then we'll keep this company funded to move our other compounds along. Again, the obesity compound, the ACL recovery compound, a glioblastoma compound that are coming along. But again, we're focused on one compound at a time, which is unfortunate because, it takes time. But that's just the reality of time and money. We don't have unlimited amounts of both. So we're moving one forward, and then we'll move the other one forward and the other one forward. So all options are open.
I won't mention any names, but I see in the audience there are folks who might be scouting and buying. And so I certainly hope that you are in discussions with them or others like them.
Well, I don't know who those people are. We are in discussions. Like I say, we've kind of kept fairly stealthy, and we're just beginning our discussions now. We have, anyways, some conversations, but more conversations would be better. But we're open to anything that makes sense. But again, the focus has got to be product to the market so that I can take it. No, so that we all can take it. Because again, it doesn't do any good simply to, fool around with an IPO and keep the company limping along if the product isn't going to.
Sonia, can I ask one more follow-up question?
Sure.
So this is sort of talking corporate strategy or corporate development strategy stance. So this is not something we typically do. We don't have the time to do that in our showcase, but I was interested, you're raising 8 million targeting 8 million for an A round to get through phase 1. Obviously you have to unfold your valuation in a reasonable manner, but I would have thought that the value step up that you'd get by buying some early phase 2A would get you a better bargaining position with your potential licensees or partners or what have you. Have you costed out a development plan and timetable and budget where you might be able to ask for a bit more, have some money, gas in the tank, and see whether you can at least get some proof of concept in Homo sapiens?
Yeah, no, we've definitely looked at the different options, and that's why we're targeting the A round relatively small. So we're not going to we'll take some dilution, obviously, but it's not going to be extensive. And the valuation, I think, will be fair for the early investors. And then once that data comes in, which like I say, it's a sad mad, we'll be collecting some efficacy data as we go along. But it really is that phase 2. And so, yes, it's all costed in. And one would say, well, look, phase 1, that should only be a couple $1 million. Why are you asking 8? Ask me over coffee. I'll show you the plan. But the goal is, again, that's funding bringing the next generation. So it's not a one-trick pony. It's funding the clinical trial, but it's then keeping the pipeline moving forward with the other products. So you're funding the company. You're not just simply funding this thing, although this is the priority to move this forward.
Now, you didn't take us through any of the detailed science, but what would you say are your biggest scientific risks that you face still?
So the detailed science, we have, you name the omics, we've run it on these animals post, shall we say, study. So we really have a pretty detailed mechanism of action and how it works. And we've published some of that in peer-reviewed journals, obviously. The biggest risk right now, what is that? Is it going to work in humans? So the CMC scale up, we've taken this up to, many grams, and the path to kilogram scale up is straightforward. We're working with Cambrix on that, and there's no problems there. The safety margins are large in dogs. We've already done early testing even outside of the non-GLP. We've done preliminary, dog testing. We did not euthanize the dogs. We just took it up high enough to establish about a 20-fold safety margin in the animals. We did not establish what the adverse limit is. We felt there wasn't a need to make the animals suffer because we had a nice safety margin there. Obviously, that'll be followed up in the pre-IND study. We have a CRO who is starting these. That'll be a 28-day dog study. So the animal models are obviously going to be rat and dog. So it's not, there's no indication yet that we're going to be surprised, because we've tried to do some small preliminary studies to do all the de-risking. So right now, it really is, will the humans respond in these models similar to the mice? And obviously that's, you know, that's a big risk. That's why we've tried to look at different models, both an exercise model and a muscle regeneration model that other people have used to move into the clinics, okay? But the biggest risk is, you know, let's see what the phase 2 looks like. I think that's our biggest risk right now. Everything else, we're pretty comfortable. We've de-risked it very, very nicely at this point.
Yeah, I'm always happy to see science companies working in models other than rodents, like the dog model. Do you have the dog data already, or you're working on it right now?
We did PK talks. The dog model for muscle injury, we did not feel it was prudent or necessary to injure the animals like we've done to, I'm sorry, yeah, but that's the reality. I mean, the IACUC wasn't too receptive. Yes, we could have found a vendor overseas to do a serious muscle injury in a dog. We declined to do that. We'll move it into the humans. Like I say, with safety talks. So, I mean, that's the reality. We are doing some Duchenne studies in a Duchenne animal, in a Duchenne dog. We had been working with Texas A&M. We're in Houston right now. They've essentially stopped their golden retriever Duchenne models because they were getting not good press, and so it's actually getting hard to find a Duchenne animal model other than the rodents. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Dan.
All right, thank you all.